Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Cami Repson, taking a look at this damage once again, and that cleanup continues in the Fox Cities. Monday's tornado still devastating to see. Emergency officials do ask you stay out of these storm damaged neighborhoods unless you have a clear reason to be there. Menasha police say curious drivers are heading into those hard hit areas just to look at the damage. It's creating extra traffic, blocking utility trucks and emergency vehicles, and it really does slow down recovery. So unless you live there, you're directly helping a resident, or you're part of an official volunteer team, you're being told to just stay away. Anyone who wants to volunteer is urged not to self-deploy. Instead, sign up through Volunteer Fox City so crews can send people where they're needed the most and keep them away from getting in the way of that emergency